Okay, welcome to the class, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about tutelary spirits. We're going to look at what the history of the magician's assistant is as it shows up throughout our occult traditions. I want to start the class with a quick actual question for you before we go too much further. I want you to think about sort of what you think of when you think of the holy guardian angel, and if you want to go ahead and put that in the chat, that would be great. I am very curious to see what you guys think about this, because when I came into the occult, one of the first things I learned about was that I needed to attain knowledge and conversation with the holy guardian angel. And I read all this stuff by Aleister Crowley that told me what to expect when I did all this, and that explained what the holy guardian angel was. And that was my introduction to this particular entity, this holy guardian angel guy. And it was uh uh it was very I don't know what it kind of programmed me to expect things to go a certain way, as I went through my path here in my progressive initiatory experiences in the occult. So yeah, if you could, and you don't have to actually type anything in, but if you do want to explain what your understanding of the tutelary spirit is. Joseph, you said you read the Alison Jankowski chapbook on the PGM consecration. Excellent spell. It wraps a lot of lore into it. It's a very good spell for the Helios consecration, right? It's really neat. But it doesn't really, I don't think that that's really a tutelary spirit conjuration spell unless I'm thinking of a different one. Uh, but yeah, so the holy guardian angel was this concept to me that like I thought uh, we would actually like go through this process, like it was presented as like this arduous task where it took years and years and years and months and months and months, and after a long time of preparations and everything had to be just right, then you would receive this vision of this spirit, and then you'd get its name, and then in that moment you would attain enlightenment and you would be initiated into Tifereth, and you would understand everything there is to understand about everything there is to understand about everything forever. So it's a pretty awesome uh, experience if that's actually what happens. But I didn't exactly have that experience when it came down to it. Uh, I had a very different set of experiences that were very cool and very fun. Um, yeah, but all right. So yeah, like the Abramelin is another ritual that people think of when it comes to tutelary spirits. It's where you get your holy guardian angel from. You know, let's see. We've got uh, I don't think the only way to gain conversation is with the Abramelin right. Certainly, I don't think so either. I have a hard time divorcing the occult concept from the Catholic school concept. You mean like of the holy guardian angel that's like protecting all the children? That's a very prominent understanding of the holy guardian angel that is popular in our culture. Um, We've got the, let's see, the basic idea out of the Den's translation of Abramelin. That's an excellent translation. Akir's Holy Diamond, Leach's work, and some of your interviews. However, I'm not sure how to explain what the HJ really is. Yep. Yeah, that's basically, I mean, that's a pretty good understanding. If you guys have that kind of understanding, that about runs the gamut of it. The layers of understanding that you have are pretty much, I think, a good sample of where the culture is in general. Some people have like just this understanding from the Catholic school approach of a holy guardian angel. It's going to protect children and walk them to to school and make sure they don't get hit by a bus or whatever. And then other people have the idea of like the holy guardian angel that's going to be the spiritual guide that brings you to enlightenment and understanding. And then in the Greek magical papyri, we've got this idea of the supernatural assistant that brings that introduces you to other spirits and helps you accomplish your will and empowers you and gives you authority over other spirits so you can tell them what to do, and connects you to the other spirits so that you can tap into their powers and manifest that in your life. and also get wealthy and control people and have sex and all the things that people really want to do with magic. The supernatural assistant is there for. And then there's the whole inner voice aspect of it. Like in Socrates had this diamond that Plato I say Plato, Socrates, I can't remember. Anyway, Plato had the this diamond's voice that spoke to him, like, and Socrates's diamond was something that spoke to him too, that explained to him where what to do, and gave him guidance in life. So it was like the spiritual guide that was protecting him. So we'll go through the whole history of it, and where these different ideas popped up at different times across our history. But basically, I mean, yeah. So basically, this entity, if you go back to the very first people, like if or your basic understanding of what a human being is and what we're doing here on planet Earth, and what we're going to do with ourselves before we die, and basically everybody's born, and then we live, we make our choices, and then we pass and we go on to something else. Some of us become magicians, right? And some of us are drawn into occultism, and some of us study hermetics, and some of us become neo-pagans, and some of us become ceremonialists, and some of us become Goetia scholars, and some of us become I don't know, Hellenistic reconstructionists, I guess. I can't think of what else there is. Greek magical papyri operationalists. I think that about covers it. Grimoire traditionalists, did I say that? Anyway, like we get into our special specificities, right? And lodge magicians have their paths of initiation and whatnot. And then like there's this overlap between these different specializations that encourages you to attain this supernatural assistant. And different traditions within the occult will tell you that you need to have this, that you have to have it. Like if you're into Thelema, it's like one of the primary goals of your occult practice is to attain knowledge and conversation with your holy guardian angel. But then in other traditions, like in Wicca, it's completely optional. It's not something that people have to do. In Goetia, it's not necessary at all. Although there is a different spirit that we'll talk about a little bit, Skirlin, who serves the same function. But the necessity to have it is not necessarily, it's not consistent across all the different traditions within the occult. So because it's not consistently like required across different traditions, there's not really one view of what this entity is and what it means and what its purpose is. But when you look back over the history of the occult, we've always had familiar spirits. We've always had this invisible entity that is assigned to us, that speaks to us and guides us and guards us and gives us the stuff that we need to do our job. So I think that this is something that's very useful. This spiritual companion, this spiritual assistant, your magical sequined, beautiful assistant who's there to help you do your magic and everything you do. I think that it's very useful. All right. And it is a traditional thing. Like the Greeks always had this tutelary spirit or tutelary deity, this actual god that would teach them these things. And it's not new, and it's not owned. The concept is not owned by Abramelin. It's not owned by Liber Samek. It's not owned by ceremonialists. This entity is not just the holy guardian angel or the supernatural assistant. It's any invisible spirit that helps you out. It can be a spirit guide. It can be your animal totem. It can be anything new age. It's anything invisible that actually communicates with you and gives you guidance and empowers you and makes you more efficient in your magical practices. So yeah, that's basically what they do. Whatever you expect when you enter into this operation, and the purpose of this class, and just so you know, throughout this whole class, I'm going to be pushing and selling the idea of why you should have your knowledge and conversation with your holy guardian angel, why you should have this experience of having this assistant, because it is one of the most empowering and most efficient ways to do magic as a magician that I've found. I don't know how to do magic without it anymore, because it's become such an integral part of my practice. And my practice has been so successful that I really want to pass it on to as many people as I can. Just because, I mean, like, I don't need you to buy my stuff for me to be successful. I really just need people to be successful so that we can have a good time on planet Earth. I need more people having a good time so that we have more positive experiences to share. But when you come to the table to actually start the conjuration, what you expect is going to help guide what you experience. So I'm going to give you this really broad expose of this entity as I've seen it across space and time, so that you understand what your full capabilities are with this entity as a magician, because you don't get limited to one particular time, like just because like the magicians of 1500 BC didn't have the same concepts or ideas or perspectives that we have now on this spirit, so they aren't going to have the same opportunities to work with it that we will. But we can pick and choose from whatever time period we want and gather the qualities and the functionality and the features of this entity and into our personal practice, because basically it's just ways to work with your personal favorite spirit, this personal invisible spirit. And whatever the myth is of how you got it, it changes based on where you come from. It doesn't really matter, because once you've got it, it does the same thing in your life as a magician. It helps you, it protects you, it feeds you, it clothes you, it gives you food, it destroys your enemies, and it makes other spirits obey you, and it introduces you to spirits. But all these spirits do the same thing for people that way. And we'll see that as we go along. So, okay, so it goes back as far as we have records. This entity shows up in the Zoroastrianism, right? All the way back to Zoroaster's Ahura Mazda versus whatever the other one was. The whole fight between good and evil that was proposed in our oldest monotheistic recorded belief system that we have as human beings, right? So the oldest system that we have of magical or of religious practice included the Fravashi, which is this guardian angel that is assigned to people at birth. And as we've moved on from 1500 BC, our earliest records, into our modern day, that entity has continued to stay with us and throughout whatever cultures we've moved to, and it's continued to change and evolve. I use the word evolve a lot throughout this presentation, and that's exactly what it's done. As it has gone to different times and places, as the needs of the magicians that work with their invisible friends have changed, the entity's features, functions, and properties have changed. And you can see it evolve over time as our magicians have evolved into what they need. We think we know what this entity is capable of doing, right? So in the same way that it has changed in its features, and I just said we can pick and choose what aspects of the spirit and what it can do from across all of our history of the spirit, right? We can select that stuff and work with it, right? But the ability to actually to really know what we can't really know what it's capable of doing, because we're still limited. So in the same way that these people from 1500 BC or 500 BC or wherever we look at the timeline across our occult history, they're going to have different needs and applications of the spirit. And we're going to think that we know how to do all this stuff. But in 500 years, people are going to have different needs. It's going to continue to evolve. So we think that we know what we can do with the spirit, but there's no way to know for sure unless we ask the spirit, right? And we should always be ready to grow with the spirit and use the spirit in new ways, because in the same way that our occult practices are continuing to evolve, or the way that they have evolved over time too right now, we should continue to expect them to evolve, and we should find new ways to work with the spirit and to apply it in our daily lives and our practices. So our earliest mentions of this are in Zoroastrianism. There was a good and an evil spirit that were assigned to the person. This was around 1500 BC. So it goes back all the way to back then. And then there aren't a lot of new beliefs that are coming into being around this time period that we have a record of as we go forward. So like you get to the Hesiod's writing the Theogony around 800 BC, right? And then you've got the Rig Veda going on, and over in the Hindus are writing the Rig Veda around 700 BC, and we've got some mentions of the Atman, right? And then you've got Socrates' diamond in 400 BC. It gets mentioned around 400 BC. So in between the Zoroastrianism around 1500 and Socrates' diamond in 400, there's not a lot of change, right? So when you look at what was going on with the Fravashi and Zoroastrian, confirm that you're seeing me here, because all of a sudden everything froze. Shoot. Okay. All right. Hey guys, I'm back. Crap. I wonder how that happened. I didn't see anything to let me know that was going on. That's not healthy. Okay, so all right, let me see if I can get my screen sharing here again. Sorry about that. I hope that doesn't happen very often here. Share screen. Yeah, that's too. Share. Okay, there we go. Aha. All righty. Well, hopefully it's still recording. So, all right, here we go. Zoroastrian was the last word I heard. That was at 417. It's 418. So hopefully you're not like, when did it freeze up? Looks like around 417. Okay, so it wasn't too bad. All right, great. All right, good. So the earliest mentions were around 1500 BC, right? Okay, so I had been talking about how sorry about that. Uh, uh, the good spirit and the evil spirit were assigned to the human souls, and they were trying to compete to actually win. I don't know. The good guys were going to win, and the evil guys were going to lose, hopefully, right? So anyway, these spirits are trying to get you to do good, to help you succeed. Anyway, if you were good, then their god won, and if you were evil, then the evil god won. So the spirits were fighting to influence your behavior the whole time. So anyway, that slowly turned into some different things. So they actually literally thought that the spirits were on our shoulders. And if you see those cartoons where you see the angels and the devils on these people's shoulders, that idea is still what's going out into the world. That was the same idea that was prominent for the the Zoroastrians. The good spirits were called the Arda Fravash, which are the holy guardian angels. Basically, they believed that everybody had this guardian angel, and they originally patrolled the boundaries of the ramparts of heaven, and they volunteered to descend to earth to actually work with us, to be with us. So they actually had a job, but because they cared so much about people, they decided they were going to descend to earth and give us a hand. Let's see. Ahura Mazda advises Zarathustra to invoke them for help whenever he finds himself in danger. And basically, they say that the only reason we exist is because these spirits are protecting us, because basically these other evil spirits are trying to kill us the whole time. And that protective aspect of them is something that pops up again and again. So when we say holy guardian angel, it's the guardian part that is the primary part of what they do. They are our guards. They protect us from evil spirits, and they protect us from all the actual entities that are trying to kill us all the time, every second. We see as late as, even in the Abramelin ritual, one of the first things that the spirit does after it appears is it shows you all the times that it saved your ass because you were just such a fool, and it was trying to tell you the right things, but you never listened. So also, the Fravashi serves as an ideal. You're trying to unite with this spirit. You're trying to meditate with this spirit and contemplate its good behaviors so that you can attain that. If we look at Porphyry, he had a similar practice. Porphyry and Plotinus, they talk about how you're always contemplating this God and how you're focusing on this deity to basically you're harmonizing your own energies so that you can manifest that God's energy in your life on a regular basis. And also, they believe that these entities could be merged with after death so that you became a higher entity. Let's see. All right. So moving on from the Persians, the Plato and the Greeks. Excuse me. All right. So the Plato and the Greeks believed that around 400 BC, so it's about 1,000 years goes by, and the beliefs about this spirit has continued to shift and evolve and transform over time. So now these spirits are not just considered to be these angels that are patrolling the edges of heaven and are volunteering to come down and help you and protect you from all these spirits that are trying to kill you all the time. They're also they're considered that they could be a hero, one of the strong dead, somebody who is like a mortal who's died and lived a great life. They can now go on and become a powerful dead person on the other side, and they can be invoked, and they will become your tutelary spirit, and they will guard you and guide you and help you to become more like them. It's literally hero worship, right? You worship your heroes, and they make you more like them. They also believed that another belief was that the daemon would actually, they would pull lots to see who they ended up with. So all those face palm pictures of the holy guardian angel where you're like, oh my gosh, that's totally me. But the holy guardian angels they basically they like, it was a lot. They couldn't pick the person that they wanted to be with, because obviously they would all pick the heroes, right? And so instead of like that, they were like, you just gotta take your chances, and you don't really know which one you're going to end up with. But it was funny that it's not like we're taking our chances. It's like they're taking their chances because we're like the shit detail that you have to work with, and they're like, I got Josh. That's how I picture it sort of going. So Socrates was famous for claiming that he was born with a personal diamond, who the gods had given him as a gift. And so when Socrates was talking about his spirit, he believed that it was an internal oracle. He thought it was a part of himself, and it was divinely inspired. It was a spark of the divine, but it was still a part of himself, like it was inside the self. So when we talk about the holy guardian angel today, we talk about how sometimes it's an external spirit that we're conjuring, and it's separate from ourselves, or it's a separate spirit that has been that has volunteered to descend from the heavens to work with us, or it's assigned to our birth at the natal chart, or however we assume that it's coming into being with us. The idea that it's separate from us is not necessarily traditional. So like Socrates believed that it was an aspect of the self that was considered like the mouthpiece of the noble aspect of the self. So it was an internal oracle. It was that thing inside of you that spoke to it. And then the Greeks also divided their spirits into good and evil spirits. So there's the agathos daemon, the good spirits, and the kakodaimons, the evil spirits, and they were always fighting against each other. And depending on whether you were having a good time or a bad time, it was like whether you had, it was, pretty obvious, pretty straightforward. If you're having a crappy time in your life, you probably have some kakodaimones floating around that you need to get rid of. Yeah, but the agathos daemon were also considered these house gods. So house gods were also considered tutelary spirits. So like the lares in ancient Rome were these house gods that you would worship, and each house god, they could be like your ancient ancestors who were famous. The Smiths from 1942 were really well, they did great as Smiths, so we worship them. These are the ones that could also be considered these ancestor spirits that are guiding you and guarding you and watching over you. Pretty much any spirit that helps you could be considered a tutelary spirit, as long as it guides you and guards you and helps you out with other spirits. It's going to fit the bill. So as we continue on, when we get to the first century, so that was Plato around 400 BC. So we've gone from 1500 BC to about 500 BC, and there's not a lot of changes. There's still good and evil spirits that you're fighting for you, and now it's beginning to be seen as more of an influence that is influencing you. It's not just like whispering in your ear trying to get you to do things. It's actually speaking from inside of you. Again, we see that it's this invisible force that's giving you guidance that you can sense, but isn't necessarily something that tells you what to do. It's not your boss. It's not going to get you to do all the right things. It's just going to tell you or let you feel what you should know, what you should do, but it doesn't do it for you. So you're starting to see that this entity, again, it doesn't change what the human can do. And this is important to realize about this entity, because like by the time we get to Crowley, it is the highest self, and if you are in tune with it, then it will get the enlightenment done for you. And simply getting in touch with it is somehow equivalent to being enlightened, and that's not what it was originally supposed to be. It was never considered an enlightening spirit, and it never actually did any of the work for you. I mean, it would go out and do magic for you, but it wouldn't like change you or do the enlightenment for it. You had to do the work. That was the thing about the whole thing the whole time. Nobody did it for you. So anyway, so moving on to the 4th century. So by the time you get to the 1st century AD and up like the time of Christ, where you're like you see Jesus and the apostles and the book of Acts, you see like all this miracle crap going on where they're like raising the dead and like making the blind to see and healing the lame. All these things are things that the spiritual assistants, the supernatural assistants, were supposedly able to do as well, right? So all these miracles that Jesus did, basically consider that propaganda. Consider that the commercials of the time saying, this is what Jesus can do to you. If you come to Jesus, you can experience all of the salvation, all of the presence of the Lord. Not only that, but also you can speak in tongues. You can have the gift of ministry. You can have the gift of knowledge where you just know things. You can tell demons to get out of people. You can heal the sick. You can make the blind to see. All these powers that these Christians claim to have because they were Christians, they got through the power of the quote unquote Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is a paraclete. The paraclete was your companion. It was your counselor. It was your guide who guided you to do all the right things as a Christian. So the Christians had this tutelary spirit that was the equivalent of the supernatural assistant, but instead of everybody getting their own one that was assigned to them at birth, they believed that everybody shared this one Holy Spirit, and this one Holy Spirit happened to be the equivalent of Yud He Vav He, Jehovah God, and also Jesus Christ, right? So yeah, that's crazy. The Holy Spirit is our holy guardian angel, right? That it's the same entity, and it's able to do the same things that they were able to do in Acts of the Acts of the Apostles, right? So yeah, so these miraculous healings. All right, actually, that's a great example. Padre Pio, who could be in two places at once, and I'm not sure what brother Andre did, but they were well known for being able to channel these miraculous extreme things that would happen in their lives. So anyway, but these supernatural assistants are supposed to be the ones that help them be able to do that. So Plotinus was around the time around the second century AD, when they were putting together Neoplatonism. And Plotinus wrote the Enneads, and the Enneads basically spell out like how the cosmos came together with the good and the mind of God and the logos and the utterance and all this stuff. It's very similar to the Corpus Hermeticum. I prefer the Corpus Hermeticum because it's the divine Pymander, the shepherd of men. It's contemporary to the New Testament. It's contemporary to the Greek magical papyri. It's contemporary to the Stela of Jehu. It's contemporary to all those things. But I like the Corpus Hermeticum because it's complete. It's a coherent story. It tells you why you get to do magic. It explains that you're awesome and all the powers love you. And I think that's a great way to have a cosmology that works for you. But in that belief system, in the Corpus Hermeticum, your tutelary spirit is the Logos. The Logos, again, just like in Christianity, the Holy Spirit is your tutelary spirit. But for Pymander, it's Pymander. In the Corpus Hermeticum, it's Pymander, the shepherd of men, is your Holy Spirit. And he's the one that actually guides you to piety and empowers you, but it sends the evil demon to distract you. But anyway, yeah, so we've got Plotinus talks about this God, this spirit that he had that they conjured into visible appearance that scared the crap out of the people who are conjuring, and I'll go into detail with that. The Greek magical papyri, there's like 4 different instances that we have in what remained of the Greek magical papyri that explain like how to get a supernatural assistant, right? And it can be we'll talk about those in a little bit more detail later. The Stela of Jehu represents sort of like where it was at in the Egyptian belief system, like it's sort of equivalent to a tutelary spirit in a way. And then the Corpus Hermeticum talks about the good genius and the evil daemon. The good genius that is there for you is the Pymander, is the shepherd of men, and the evil daemon is who he sends to actually drive you crazy and make sure that you're never happy with all the things that make you impious. So Plotinus. So you can barely read this, but it's in the workbook. You can see it a little more clearly. So from Porphyry's introduction to the Enneads, he explains all about his great hero Plotinus. And Plotinus, by the way, it should be noted, died of he went blind and he had sores on his hands and feet when he died. If you're not aware, those are symptoms of syphilis, amongst other things. So Plotinus, for all of his wonderfulness, amongst other things, probably died of syphilis. But that notwithstanding, the introduction to the Enneads is fascinating, and I think everybody should read it. It gives you insight into what the daily life of these fucking philosophers was really like. They were not the awesome people that you think they are. They're these dirty, backwards, ignorant savages who barely who barely even bathed, like in some aspects, but then at the same time they were assigned the to take care of all these children by these nobles, and they would be very careful with them, right? And anyway, you get to see all these really cool stuff about their day-to-day lives. That's interesting. But at this point, this is like number 10 in his introduction, but he talks about how there was this magician who hated Plotinus and was jealous of him and was cursing him, and he was cursing him all the time. But Plotinus had this spirit that was protecting him, And the spirit was so strong that this guy that was cursing him, it was having his spells reversed on him, and he realized that he was making his own life worse by trying to curse Plotinus. So he eventually stopped. So that's recorded there. And then it goes on to talk about how one time they tried to conjure this spirit to visible appearance in the temple of Isis in Rome. And the guy that was conjuring the spirit to appearance was when the spirit came into being, it terrified everybody because it wasn't a normal spirit. Like most people had a regular daimon that was assigned to him. He had a god. Like it was so powerful that when it came into the room, the guy that was supposed to release the birds, like they conjured the spirit and then somebody released these birds and then they read the flight of the birds, and that was how they could tell what was going to what kind of spirit it was. And then when it came time to release the birds, the guy that was supposed to release the birds was so scared he strangled the birds instead. And they weren't sure if he was like scared or just jealous and didn't want anybody to see how powerful the spirit was. But anyway, he like kills these birds instead of like doing the thing. So that's how powerful this spirit was. And the reason that Plotinus was so intelligent, aware, genius, whatever, the reason he was so philosophically great was because he spent all of his time in contemplation with this entity. He was in constant communion with it, and he was aware of it in ways that that people don't really understand. I'm going to talk more about that when we get to the third class in this series, where we talk about what it's like to actually have a decent relationship with the spirit, because he lived a relationship with the spirit. It wasn't like a one time and done. It wasn't like he conjured the spirit. He had this amazing experience, and then after that he just forgot about it and went on with his life, like Crowley suggests. He had a daily communion with him, had a daily communion with the spirit in amazing ways. And it goes on to say, somebody who is scrupulous for observing the new moon and other holy days asked Plotinus to join him in a celebration, and Plotinus refused and said, "It is for those beings to come to me, not for me to go to them." So that's where he was at with his relationship with the spirits. It was not for him to go to the spirits; it was for them to come to him, because he understood that his place in the cosmos was no longer to be a functionary of these other spirits, but to have those spirits be a functionary of him. All right. So moving on, in the Greek magical papyri, there are 4 instances of the assistant spirit. One of the notes that Betts has in the Greek magical papyri is that the assistant daimon, the paradros, is common in Hellenistic magic. It's a special type of daimon called the paradros, or assistant or attendant spirit, and it refers to a deity who has been summoned as a servant to carry out any number of specific magical tasks. Now, this entity can be a ghost of the dead. There is a ritual for binding a spirit of the dead to be your servant. There's another spirit for conjuring an eros. You get your very own eros, and it's very reliant on the Orphic cosmology of eros being eros. It's actually no, it's not the Orphic one for him. This is about the cosmology of eros and psyche being manifestations of the male and female principles. Anyway, you basically do this multi-day ritual to a statue of Eros, and you give it its own statue of Psyche so that it can mount her and copulate with her, and you ensoul this statue and say all these prayers to it, and then afterwards you have an assistant, and it's Eros. It's an assistant Eros. But this Eros assistant is only for one person. It lets you speak to that one person as if it were coming from a god. So it's a very intense rite to get an assistant that only works on one person. So it's not really great. But then there's also the spell of Nuthus, and that's the one where you mix the Helios spell with the Selene spell. You repeat the Helios spell 7 times, and you repeat the Selene spell 1 time. And this is actually a very potent rite. And if you look at the mingling of Samek and if you look at Liber Samek as the mingling of Isad, the moon, and Tiferet, the sun, it's very much a potent combination that's used to transform the tincture of your sphere as an alchemist, the thing that we're doing as magicians to make ourselves more empowered, clearer communicators of the divine, but the things that make us better at being humans, right? That spirit is supposed to help you to clear up that path of communication. So let's see. Other places assistants are listed for the gods, your basic time. Oh yeah. So the assistant spirit could also be like I was saying, that could be the dead, it can be a diamond, it can be an angel, but basically it's your messenger spirit. It's somebody that you send to other people or other spirits to send them a message. And it's just like having a courier was back in the old days. He would be like, hey, I've got to tell so-and-so that I'm going to be in town on this day so that we can hang out. So you'd send a messenger. It's the same thing as that. You do that with the spirits. You say, hey, Helios, I need your powers of illumination to be on me this Sunday so that I can receive a vision. Please help me out. Or, hey, Celine, I need a vision. Please send me a vision of what's going on with my lover because I feel like she's not there for me the way that she used to be. Please send me a dream this evening. And that's what your supernatural system would do. It would be your messenger. It would send the request for you, and it also provided them with the offerings that it needed. So these are the attributes. The things that the spirit does for you are really well spelled out in this in the Greek and magical papyri for the supernatural assistant, for the spell for obtaining a supernatural assistant. Know therefore that this God whom you have seen is an aerial spirit. So first of all, it's an aerial spirit. It's between the earth and the heavens. What that means to us is basically everything that happens that involves wind, air, or the movement of any air across anything is under this spirit's influence, or it has access to know these things. All right, so that's how connected it is. It's an aerial spirit. It's part of the air. Everything that the air touches, this spirit can know, see, or influence. Important to know. All right. If you command, he'll perform the task at once. He will do what he can as soon as possible for you. He sends dreams, brings women or men. So yes, they're still classed as sublunar. So these are, an aerial spirit is still an elemental spirit. It's still within the realm of the elements. It's sublunar because it's not of the celestial realm, but it's anyway. Yes, it's very much a terrestrial spirit. He brings women or men. He sends dreams. So dreams, like he good for visions. By sending dreams, basically, it's for revealing what people are doing behind your back. It's for revealing deceits. It's for providing guidance for what you should do next in your life. This is what Zeus did. He went to Night and he requested an oracle, and she provided him with the oracle that confirmed that he was supposed to consume the phallus of his grandfather and establish himself as the demiurge and recreate the universe in his own image. He got all that stuff from a dream. He got that stuff from a dream. And in the same way that he got that stuff from a dream, you can ask for a dream from your supernatural assistant. He brings women or men. So what that means is he can actually help you get laid. He can help you find the lover of your that you need. He also helps you bring friends. This involves socializing. This involves good friends for hanging out with and having a good time. This involves your boss and the influence and favor of your priests and your policemen and your judges and your politicians and your kings and your queens. All these people who are men or women, he helps with, right? And this was back when they only had like men and women. So I mean, as the spirit evolves and our needs evolve, these are spirits that are here for us to help us with everybody. Okay, they bring us everybody that we need. He will kill, overthrow, raise up winds from the earth. He'll bring gold, silver, copper, and give it to you whenever you need it. He frees you from bonds. He opens doors and makes you invisible. He brings fire, water, wine, bread, and whatever foodstuffs you want. He stops ships in mid-voyage and releases them. He stops many evil demons. He calms wild beasts and immediately breaks the teeth of savage serpents. He puts dogs to sleep and makes them stand voiceless. He transforms you into whatever form you wish. He will carry you into the air. He will solidify rivers in the sea promptly so that you can run on them standing up. He will indeed restrain the foam of the sea if you wish. And when you wish, he is able to bring down the stars, to make hot things cold and cold things hot. He will light lamps and quench them again. He shakes walls and sets them ablaze. These are all the properties of the goetic spirits. They shake walls, they set things ablaze. These are all the properties of the terrestrial spirits of the Goetia, of the Grimorium Verum, right? It's very much an aerial spirit. And Joey, that was a great question. Yes, these are terrestrial spirits. They're very much the ones that influence our day-to-day lives, every aspect of our daily lives. And so you should know, a lot of these things that they do are in the astral. It's all astrologically, but astral, like imaginary. They don't like literally kill people for you. I mean, I believe they might, but the people that I've wished that they would kill have not died. And not for lack of wishing, I must say, not for lack of asking. And just I don't think I really cared enough to make it happen. So they didn't think I really cared enough to make it happen. But yeah, it's they're there for you to do just about everything that you could want, and you should not be afraid to ask them to do everything for you. Okay, they really are a part of every aspect of your life. Like they're here to make it better, and you should always ask them to do everything, and they will help you. Let's see, you'll have in him a slave sufficient for whatever task you may conceive. So by slave, we're talking about your assistant. And in the same ways that we use Chat GPT as an intern who who's really eager to help and can answer a lot of questions that might be wrong about some things, it's the same thing with the supernatural assistant. They're very much like your intern. They're eager, they are happy to help you, they will help you carry things, but they aren't that smart. They were like slaves back then. They weren't trained labor. Okay. You are the blessed initiate of holy magic. They are not, right? You got to remember that there's a difference here in this description. And this most powerful assistant, who alone is Lord of Air, will accomplish for you, and all the gods will agree, for without this God, nothing is done. So without this God, nothing is done. This is something else that they believed that was very important for you to figure out, is that you couldn't do any magic without this spirit, right? So, I mean, it's very much, if you want to think of it as like an aspect of yourself, it's the aspect of yourself that lets you do magic, right? If you really want to think of it that way, it's the part of you that's actually touching things with your magical will and pushing things and making them happen. So, all right. So moving out of the 1st through the 4th century, we hit a period of history where things get kind of quiet, and you don't hear a lot going on from the occult realms until around 1100. And around then, the Picatrix was recorded. There's a lot going on with the occult. And we see like records of it later. But at the time, the Picatrix was the only thing that was really being produced that encapsulated where people were at with things. And it included a ritual of the conjuration of the perfect nature, which was remarkably similar to conjuring the supernatural assistant. But now it's gone back to being just this idea of like a genius loci, sort of. It's almost like a spirit of place. And what you do is you go out and you set out a feast, and you draw the attention of the spirit, and then this spirit of the perfect nature is able to assist you with the perfection of all things. And then on into the Renaissance, we have two great examples of how they saw the tutelary spirit. We've got the Obermelin Rite, which was written by Abraham of Worms. And in Agrippa, we have the threefold keeper of a man, which continues the tradition. In Obermelin manuscript, it's a great ritual. Fabulous ritual, really great. It's got this this whole system that Mathers did a great job summarizing, that basically says angels are better than demons. They believe that demons really exist, that demons used to be angels and they fell, just like the Bible says. And so this is supposedly all based on Kabbalah, and it's supposedly written by a Jew. But all of this is based on very Christian ideas of what happened with the fall of angels. None of that was actually Jewish. It's all Christian beliefs. So you got to wonder about all this. So the idea of angels and demons, they believe that the angels were stronger than the demons because they stayed good and the demons were evil. They believe that the evil demons were always trying, always trying to destroy you. They believe that the demons were allergic to the holiness of the angels. And when you conjured your holy guardian angel, it was so pure and it was so holy that the reason that the demons would obey you was because they wanted the pain and suffering that they felt, the excruciating torment and agony of being in the presence of your holy guardian angel, to end. So they would do whatever you said just so that they could stop the pain. Um, yes, the main purpose of the Obermelon is to bind the demons, and there are easier ways than doing the right if your goal is to attain knowledge of conversation. Yes, absolutely. And there's a lot of easier ways to do all this stuff. And I don't know, there's a lot of arguments that can be said that we're all of our rights are sort of doing this in a way, right? Depends on how you look at it. So binding demons, like the thing people don't think about with the Obermelon system is that it's a demon conjure, right? Like the whole purpose of conjuring the angel is not to get spiritual wisdom and insight. The author of the Obermelon wrote it for his son because he couldn't give his son Lamech the Holy Kabbalah. The Holy Kabbalah went to his oldest son, and his younger son wasn't going to get the inheritance of this amazing thing. So he was like, okay, here's a crappy version of magic, but it does the same thing. It'll make you rich. It'll give you the powers that you need to influence society and get ahead, which is basically all the things that you're supposed to do with Goetia magic, which was a 16th century magical construct as well. So basically all the things that all the magical constructs of the time were supposed to do for you, the Obermelon Rite did for you. And the idea that it was going to bring you enlightenment was not present. It's nowhere in the manuscript. There's no idea that this entity is going to provide you with any kind of spiritual attainment. It doesn't do that. What it does is it provides an ecstatic experience when it shows up. And then in its holiness, it provides you with the torture that you need to force the demons to do your will. And you conjure the kings of hell, and then you go through the hierarchy until you're assigned 4 individual spirits, little lowly spirits who will serve you in everything you want. And anytime you want something from a higher spirit, they would go off and get the highest spirit that's necessary. So you end up with 4 elemental familiars when you do the Obermelon Rite. And that was it. That was it. That was what you're supposed to do. You weren't supposed to attain any kind of initiation. You weren't supposed to rise up through the spheres and cross the abyss. You didn't get one with God. You got a system of magic to do to get rich, to get the things that magic is supposed to get. Is that where the leech's work comes in? According to him, the Obermelon is a system in itself. The purpose of the angel is to gain authority to work with the demons. And how do you? I honestly I don't know what Leech teaches. I don't have a lot of opinions. I do have a lot of opinions about the man, and none of them are positive. So I don't think that I'm probably the best person to be asking about that. The purpose of the angel is to gain the authority to work with the demons. Yeah, I mean, basically, yes, that's exactly what Obermelon says. So if that's what he teaches, I guess he's right. And I hate to say he's right about anything. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like he's got that right. And what to ask? Yeah, basically that's it. That's exactly right. Well, yeah, whatever. I don't have anything to say about any of that stuff. Let's see. So when you look at how Mathers actually sums up the Obermelon Rite, like he says basically that it's human beings are of the middle nature, and it's our choices, right, that determine whether or not we're going to be good or evil, right? And the knowledge of good and evil is provided uh, by these angels, and we're the mediating force, right? And so just like in Zoroastrianism, we've got the good spirits giving us good advice, and the evil spirits giving us evil advice, and we're the medium in between. Um, let's see. By purity and self-denial to obtain the knowledge of and conversation with one's guardian angel, so that thereby and thereafter we may obtain the right of using the evil spirits for our servants in all material matters. So that's how Mathers sums it up, and that basically is what Aaron teaches to, I guess, and that makes sense. And the magnum opus of the work is uh, purity and self-denial, right? And thank you. Sorry about that. Purity and self-denial. All right. So going back to purity and self-denial. Ah, aha. Can't see the screen. Sorry about that. Yes, damn internet Kako diamonds as well. So one of the things I did say I need to do going forward is make propitiatory offerings to Hermes before we begin. So anyway, so yes, purity and let's see, you said the last thing you saw was purity and something. Anyway, the point of this of the Obermalin system of magic was to get you the authority to conjure the demons so that you could make your world better and accomplish the same kind of magic that people were doing with Goetia. So Agrippa's threefold keeper of a man does the same thing, right? So it consists of three pieces. There's the genius, the nativity spirit, and the daemon of profession. All right. So the good daemon or the genius is your conduit to God, right? So this is what's going to give you your spiritual advice and your authority to actually tell other spirits what to do. Oh, okay. Share screen is messed up. Sorry. Is that better? Do it. Okay. You just have to click on the screen. All right. Okay, good, good. So anyway, the good diamond is what gives you the power to conjure other spirits, according to Agrippa, and make them do what you want. The nativity daemon is what actually protects your body and your mind from all the things, uh, uh, from all the dangers and the slings and arrows that we have to face in life, in our daily life. And then the diamond of profession is the entity that looks over your business aspects of your life and basically determines whether you're going to be rich or poor, or helps you get ahead or find what you need. And basically, the more in harmony you are with your natal chart, the more success you'll have. And together, all three of them oversee all aspects of your mundane life. So here we see more of the nurturing entity, right? Here, Agrippa's threefold keeper of a man is basically a cradle to the grave nurturer. And all you have to do to tap into it is get the name of the genius spirit. And somebody said earlier, um, that they had gotten the name of their genius spirit from Chris Warnock, and they don't know what to do with it. Well, what you do with it after you get the name of your spirit is you conjure the entity and you ask it to initiate you. It's your genius spirit. It's the one that gives you the holy initiator, who grants power to conjure up all manner of spirits from every sphere. You conjure it, and you conjure it in its name, using its name, and you can do it in a solar hour, and you can use the Trithemian conjuration um, thing, and you ask it to be your holy guardian angel. You ask it to reveal itself to you, to give you a personal name for it, a way to communicate with you. You ask it to start making you be able to see it and hear it better, because that's its job too, is to help you understand it. And then put it to work on all the aspects of your life. Set it to guard your body and your mind, like the genius or nativity aspect. Set it to get you money because of your profession, and these are all the things that it can help you with. Let's see. In modern times, so Mathers, in his translation, in the introduction, I could have sworn he said that it was like the Aguietes or the Atman, that he compared the Holy Guardian Angel to that. And I can't find it now. I could have sworn that that's what it said, but I can't find it. So whatever, but whatever. But anyway, he compared it to Theosophy and Blavatsky. And basically, this is where you start to see the creep of the move of the supernatural assistant and tutelary spirit from being something that empowers your magic so that you can go out and do magic and learn and change the world and do something active in the world, to this idea that it's going to somehow be just there for your enlightenment purposes, like Crowley and Blavatsky. They went to Tibet. They were exposed to the idea of tantra and attainment and nirvana and enlightenment, and this achievement of spirituality and experiential spirituality that you could actually attain for yourself and go out and work for and speed up, and they were enamored of that, and they started looking for ways to find a way to do it in the Western traditions, or the European traditions that they were used to. So Mathers finds it in the Holy Guardian Angel, and Crowley hears this, and like he really grabs onto the concept and goes nuts with it and turns it into this whole idea that, I mean, he strips the Stela of Jehu out of the Greek magical papyri. He shoves it down to the Samek on the Tree of Life between the moon and the sun, and then he turns it into this thing that is going to somehow propel you. The process of attaining communication with this thing is going to propel you across this imaginary abyss and put you in tune with your true self and your true nature through Kether, because he's combined the the nativity angel and the genius spirit that speaks for God and the Fravashi that guards you and protects you. He's combined all these things together into one entity, and it's somehow going to actually result in you attaining the results of tantra and I don't know, nirvana, all that stuff. So maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. So Crowley went crazy with that, but that in turn, right? So Crowley got published by Weiser. All of Crowley's stuff, Weiser published, and it became part and parcel of our bread and butter in modern occultism. So Crowley became the bedrock of a lot of people's beliefs. He worked with Gerald Gardner when Gardner was coming up with his ideas for Wicca. Wicca became super popular in the 80s and 90s and formed the foundation of a lot of neo-pagan beliefs, right? So Crowley is like part and parcel of different aspects of our entire occult system, and his view of what the holy guardian angel was influenced what these spirit guides were. And spirit guides, actually, if you look at like Blavatsky, her idea of what a spirit guide was, you can still see that in the 90s ideas of what spirit guides were. It was just basically like you have this ancestor spirit that you used to be who's going to guide and guard you. You know, you used to be Queen Cleopatra, or Blavatsky had a Kut Humi, right? She had these racist caricatures of of these terrible, like what you'd expect a white European to think of as a bushman or a you know, all this racist terrible crap that basically it was awful what she would do. But I mean, that was her spirit guide, right? So she would imagine these entities. And if you're familiar with like the Golden Dawn idea of God forms, you picture this God form and you project the spirit into it until it begins to manifest as if it were that God, and then the God communicates with you. And in a lot of ways, that's what these people are doing with their spirit guides and with their ideas of what the spirit guide is. So even in the 20th century, we still have this tutelary spirit popping up in the form of spirit guides. And in the fairy tradition, which combines Wicca and Huna and some stuff from Crowley and some stuff from all the different aspects of everything, we actually find the Fravashi is back. The Fravashi represents the holy guardian angel, and the fairy tradition has embraced the Fravashi as the embodiment of the holy guardian angel in their system. So it's still around. So the Mathers and Crowley slide, these are not Mathers and Crowley, by the way. I asked Midjourney to give me 2 Victorian occultists, and it was like, here you go. So yeah, the Mathers and Crowley slide, this is really, when you look through the workbook, it actually has more of all this stuff quoted. It just shows what I wanted to give you a glimpse at what Crowley had to say about the holy guardian angel, and how when you read it, you see it's not about just getting the power to create your world. It's about learning all this stuff and getting enlightenment. Basically, one way or another, you're trying to get enlightened, and that's what Crowley tries to turn it into. And his interpretation is, it's fine if that's what you really want to do, but if you really want to be enlightened, you know, there's a whole path of enlightenment that you can follow that does that. And conflating that with the holy guardian angel, I think, puts too much on the holy guardian angel's plate that it's not really there to do. So I think go through this and sort of get an idea of what Crowley was trying to say the holy guardian angel was about, so that you can sort of, I don't want to say eliminate, but be aware of whether or not that's actually influencing your perspective on this holy guardian angel, because that can change what it can impact your experience with the spirit and make it harder for you to have full access to everything that it can do. Okay, so 2 more things I want to talk about: the evolution of Obermelin. So basically, Obermelin, in the Renaissance, the Obermelin rite, when it was just the German rite, it started out as this receipt book. It was very practical focused, and it was focused on practical magic and changing your world and making things happen for you and getting the favor of influential people and getting the stuff that you need on a daily basis. Just like the Greek magical papyri description of the supernatural assistant was all about getting you all this power and influence in the material world. It was about making you a person who could create their world in a very effective way, right? So the the Mather's translation of the French version, the French manuscript that Mather's translated was incomplete, and because it was incomplete, it relied more on the spiritual aspects of it than the practical aspects of it. The guy that translated it into the French didn't have the Kabbalistic understanding to really be able to express the tables and the numbers accurately. So he just kind of like skipped over it, copied it wrong, and focused on some spiritual qualities instead. And that's what Mathers had to work with. It's not his fault. But when Den came along, he had a much older version, or a more robust version, complete version of the manuscript, and it had a whole extra book to it that was all about the practical applications of working with these spirits. And it read a lot like a receipt book from a root worker instead of being something like a spiritual path. So basically what I wanted to do is capture how it got warped from a practical, useful entity that you conjure to get laid and get paid as a person, a well-to-do 16th century magician. Somehow it went from that to being some enlightened guru up on the side of the hill, and it's ridiculous. So the role of the supernatural assistant. So the point of this slide in particular is to trace how it was used. Previously, it was originally in the Greek magical papyri, Skirlin in the True Grimoire, and the HGA of Abermelin. These are all spirits that work to get you in contact with other spirits. They provide offerings to the spirits. If you don't have the right offerings, it makes sure that the spirits have what they need, and it compels them to obey. So it's a very functional spirit. The threefold keeper from Agrippa, and the evil daemon, the good daemon, the nativity angel, and the daemon of profession all work together to protect you, right? And then in Abermelin, again, it's about focusing on your material stuff. But then once it gets to Crowley, it turns into this true guru, which is another way of looking at it. But your true guru can actually bring you spiritual enlightenment and understanding too. So as Crowley says, once he has achieved this, he must, of course, be left, and by this he's talking about knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel. He says, once he's achieved this, he must, of course, be left entirely in the hands of that angel, who can be invariably, inevitably relied upon to lead him to the further great step, a crossing of the abyss, and the attainment of the grade of the master of the temple. So that is the point of the Holy Guardian Angel, according to Crowley. It's entirely about making you the master of the temple, which is about crossing the abyss and returning in power, right? A lot of people are going to tell you a lot of things about the Holy Guardian Angels. We've talked a little bit about Aaron Leach. He's got a lot of opinions about it. Nobody has a corner on the market about this entity. I hope that what you leave this class with is an understanding that this spirit has been with us across the entire history of our occult practice, going all the way back to Zarathustra. We've got records of this entity, and in every time magicians have worked with it, and in every place it has manifested in different ways. Everybody thinks they know what it is, and everybody is going to try to tell you that they're right and you're wrong, or they're right and I'm wrong, or whatever. I don't care. It doesn't matter. The point of this spirit has always been to make you better at doing magic, to get you what you want, to make you a better magician, to put you in control of your life, to make you the driving force, to put you in the driver's seat. The whole point of this entity is to empower you and make you efficient in your ways. Okay. Anything else, any other aspect of this, like looking at this entity as if it's going to be the primary aim of magic, it's not going to fulfill that for you. Okay. My experiences with this entity have proven to me that it is not an enlightened being, and it doesn't give a crap about your enlightenment. it will help you do bad things, and it will help you be really powerful and accomplish things that are terrible for you. It doesn't care. It doesn't have your best interests at heart. It will sit there and watch you ruin your life, and it will help you do it because you're in charge of your life. The human being is the mediator between good and evil, and this entity, we like to think it's got good intentions, and we like to think it's going to help us out, but it doesn't care. It doesn't care any more than we do, right? And that's the thing, is we're the ones that have to uh, decide if it's going to be used for good or for evil, right? Don't be distracted by that, by the idea of enlightenment when you're working on this thing with the spirit. Um, establishing this relationship. So when I put this together, the idea that K and C is the end state of the magician was really popular with the Thelemites, and the idea that you spend your whole life doing magic, and then at the end of it you attain knowledge of conversation, and then you cross the abyss, and that's when you actually, like, your rewards are after death, right? That's crap. You're supposed to actually do it first. The Emerald Tablet teaches that we're supposed to be crossing the abyss and returning in power, and that's actually the point of magic. The first thing we do is ascend through the spheres and come back in power. The Holy Guardian Angel is a key to the gates. It opens the ways up to the heavens. It passes you through. It gives you the in. The idea of being initiated into a group is that you've got friends on the inside who will help you out with the things you need in life, right? He is this entity. This Holy Guardian Angel is the holy initiator. They are an initiate into the highest realms, and they will get you in. They provide the guidance, the guardianship, and access to the spirits that you need. But what they do is they empower you to do your magic. You're still the one that has to do your magic, right? Obtaining this is the goal. Or obtaining this, it's not the goal. It's the method of obtaining the goal. The goal remains your great work and what you're going to create with your life. That's why we're doing this. The reason that we're magicians is to create our world. Okay. And the Emerald Tablet here, this is the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, by the way. What it says is that what we do with this is we ascend, we return in power, and we create the world, right? Everything that we're doing is about creating this world. Everything that the tutelary spirit is there for is about creating your world so that you can experience it and have a good time. That's what we're trying to do. All right, so that's all I got for the class. Let's turn our attention to questions. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to type them in the chat, and we will get to that. I was a lowly scrub woman in the Library of Alexandria. Yes, exactly. I did a past life regression where I went back and I reviewed all the things I used to be, and most of my lifetimes I died young and stupid and painfully. So, all right. Well, I don't see anybody typing. Usually it shows me that someone's typing. So I'm not sure that anybody's going to be asking any questions. If you guys have any questions and you want to shoot me some follow-up questions about this, do feel free to send them to me. Either ping me on Facebook or send me an email. I will try to talk about them in the next class. Thanks so much. Most of my info on HGA came from Thelemites. They're the main ones writing. Yeah, it's true. All right. Yes, excellent. And just so you know, the way that this fits in with the rest of the great work is it's what I don't know how to put it. Will this help me to finalize the Abramelin working? Yes, it absolutely will. I mean, yes. The finalization of the Abramelin working is the culmination of your regular prayers and that ecstatic moment. So in the next class, we talk about different ways of obtaining this experience, and we can talk about ways that we can help finalize that Abramelin working for you. Let's see. If you think about us being connected to the all and our consciousness being God, do you think the HGA could be that link aspect? Absolutely, could be that. Yeah. I mean, it's fundamentally the messenger, right? The angel is the angeloi. It's very much the messenger between this and This is going to be 3 classes, Jennifer. It's that next class is the methods of making contact, and then the third class is just going to be like all the recommendations I have to actually get the best out of your relationship, like how to use it to get ahead, and that's, I think, going to be the most valuable, in my opinion. Like, I wish that I could have gotten that. Yes. And let's see here. Okay. All right. I think that's about it. All right. I'm having a good time too, and I'm glad that everybody's having a good time. I will talk to you next time, and have a great weekend. How do I stop recording? Oh, here we go.